Welcome, everyone, to Origins by the Esports Awards, the show that deep dives into the leading individuals of our beloved industry. My name is Barney Banks, and today we have a very special individual joining us, a man who I had the pleasure of meeting at the end of last year. But if you've dived into Pokémon or Zelda content online, chances are you've seen him too. With almost 2.5 million subscribers on YouTube, the king of Nintendo tips and tricks, it is, of course, AustinJohnPlays. Austin, how you doing?
Hey y'all, what's going on?
Did you like that? Did you like that?
That's one hell of a talk up.
You got to live.
I feel like I have to actually bring something to this interview now.
Bring the value. Well, now you know what? Okay, I'll bring it back a little bit, Austin. If I told 10-year-old you what you do for a living right now, playing video games, making videos about video games, what would he have said?
Fuck yeah.
I was wondering if there would be expletives in there or not. I can imagine that most people would probably say that in your position. Was this the dream since, being a kid? What was the first games console? Where did the passion stem from?
Oh, absolutely not. This was not my goal. This was not my middle goal. This was not my end goal. This wasn't anything. I grew up a very socially awkward, not able to communicate well with people child in a really broken home. My mom loved me, but she loved heroin more, and just went through the system and DIFUS and everything. And I eventually ended up in my father's care, who he was a raging alcoholic at the time. He's sober now, 13 years, great guy. And I started working when I was 14, and at that point, it was just about survive. Really, that was my one goal as a child. I didn't have aspirations or dreams until middle of high school, and then I really got into hip hop. And not a lot of people know this, but I had a short stint there as a rapper. And then I looked into distribution contracts because I couldn't afford money to shop around. So I looked into how it was done, and they said you have to have your own beats. So then I looked into how to make my own production. And it turns out I'm a hell of a lot better at making music than I am about, recording on audio. So I started in a career in music, which then after high school, that evolved to a career of DJing and audio production. And that was my dream for quite a long time.
Do you feel like that, those early years, do you feel like that shaped you into a really driven young man? Or do you just feel like you were pushed into, attempting to make it out of necessity, like you said, survival?
I had to do what I had to do. I mean, high school, throughout high school, before you're 16, you can only work a certain amount of hours in New Jersey. So I had 3 jobs, all of them at 20 hours a week. And then 2 of them were under the table and 1 was on the books. And then once I got a car, I started doing deliveries for Chinese food and Italian food, and then started working at Quick Check. So I was working 60, 65 hours a week while attending high school. So I'd finish work around midnight. I'd go home. I'd sleep for 4 hours. I'd wake up for school. I'd sleep through all of my classes. I would ace every test, and I would never do homework. So I was a solid C student, and my teachers loved me because I didn't cause any trouble. But it was at a point that I was in math class, and math has always been easy for me. I was there with, people above my grade, and I never did any studying. I never did homework and flew through the tests, and I would help the older kids next to me. But reading, I couldn't do reading. No, that wasn't my thing. Anything that involves just memorize this and execute it wasn't my strong suit. But it was, here's a problem, figure it out, 100%. So that's just been always baked into my nature of, there is a problem, figure it out.
I think in the UK, we call that a grafter. Someone, I think in the UK, you'd be you're a grinder. You grind, you work all those hours, you put in all that time and effort and energy in order to scale up to where you get to now. So the music career, we can kind of, understand or maybe pick apart the fact that didn't happen. So then when did gaming come into the conversation?
Oh, no, it did happen. I was a DJ for New York City radio throughout I've been featured on 6 different radio stations. I was on Music Choice Television, which is a worldwide syndicate thing here in New Jersey, here in the United States. It's on Cablevision, Amazon DirecTV. It's on United Airlines. I was on the Dance Electronica channel, the EDM channel, and I had a mix show in rotation for 7 years with the likes of Steve Aoki, Paul Oakenfold, Benny Benassi. I was in rotation with them. My name at the time was Hugh Stark, and then eventually changed to DJ Austin John. So I had a career doing that. And then I also did weddings. And it started off as me apprenticing through weddings. And then throughout my career, I did over 1,100 all throughout the New Jersey, New York area. And that went great. And honestly, the birth of the channel only started in 2016, where I got a copy. I got someone sold me a hacked 3DS, which had a copy of Sun and Moon early. And I was like, I'm playing it, while I'm setting up for my gigs and everything. And I'm like, I absolutely love this. There's going to be a whole bunch of people who just came back to Pokemon because of Pokemon Go, which was summer 2016. And now we're talking about November 2016. And I've learned a whole bunch from this. And, I'm going to write a Reddit post about awesome things that I learned. So here I am, 2:00 in the morning, clacking away at my very loud keyboard because I thought it was cool. And I was like, why am I just writing this when I know how to edit? I know how to do video. I did photo montages for couples for their weddings. I did cinematography because I did vlogging. I knew audio production, so I knew how to record my voice, not as well as I do now, but I did. And then I put all of that together and I made my first video and I got 12 views. But
that's what I'm talking about. That's how it goes, doesn't it?
And then, I did a share post and then I shared the link on Reddit and I shared this and I shared that. And then I made another one and 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 another one. And anything that I found difficult or interesting in the game as I played through it, I would make notes on that, and those would end up being my videos. And that brought me to a channel career at the end of Sun and Moon of about 45,000 subscribers. Then Nintendo announced the Switch and Breath of the Wild, and that blew up. That blew up pretty big.
It did just a little bit. But I mean, I guess looking at it from the point of view of a content creator, or maybe the point of view of a fan, right? It's really surreal. But here's the kicker, right? On the surface, everyone feels that being a content creator, being an influencer, is like the best job ever, which it is, don't get me wrong. But I feel like then comes the realization where we're thinking, we're creating, we're editing videos almost daily, right? For a lot of people on this never-ending hamster wheel. Okay. So do you think the role of the YouTuber or the content creator is just misunderstood by people who just think that the grass is greener? Because I have people talking to me. I make short form content a lot of the time on TikTok and stuff. I don't necessarily do as much on the YouTube side, the long form. So I know how much editing goes into a lot of these videos. And too many people say, this life is a breeze. And I genuinely think it isn't. But what's your take on it?
I think the life of a content creator is difficult, a lot of self-moderation, at times horribly depressing, and it has little glimmers of glory. And so one of the major rules as a content creator is you always have to make content to stay relevant. And that's the general consensus as a general rule, applies to everyone. Like, you can't disappear for 3 years. But with my channel, I found something different because I specifically do tips and tricks and tutorials for AAA Nintendo titles, mostly of the Legend of Zelda and Pokemon franchises. And the more I stray from that path, I see huge subscriber drops. I'll lose 1,000, 5,000, 10,000 subscribers in a day if I'm doing, a coverage of a different game. Case in point, last year I covered Paper Mario Thousand Year Door and I lost more subscribers than I got, even though all the videos I think it's over 24 videos, maybe got 1.5 million views, but it was a walkthrough and a let's play that I always wanted to do. It's a remake of a game that I loved as a kid that I didn't get to experience as a child. So I went ahead and made that. And when I don't have a Zelda or a Pokemon video to make, I don't really have much to do. And I thought about, making a second channel and covering different games, but then it was a lot of just one of my biggest fears, which is learn how to live with myself, and what you have to find stuff to occupy your time. And because I also tried, playing different games, and then I would come back to the Zelda and Pokemon, and then the more I do that, the more I feel foreign to it. So the more I try to have one hand in every pot, the less I'm focused and the less I'm sharp and keen on my main channel. And I've felt that, a couple of times throughout my career. So it's a lot of downtime. And when you first start off, it's impossible. Unless you're pushed up by someone else, you're going to be pushed down by everyone else. And you need to stay strong in your own concept and your own message. I'm 36. I grew up at the age that everyone wanted to be a musician. And now everyone wants to be a gamer or an influencer or TikTok influencer, YouTube content creator. And the hardest part is the mental drain that's required for you to constantly come up with, speaking outside of directly what I do, because it's directly influenced by other games, but you have to constantly come up with shit. You do. You have to think about everything. And you're like, okay, well, how can I copy them without it look like I'm copying them? How can I take this and interpret it in my own different way? How can I come up with something new and creative that has never been done before that everyone will love? And that is your struggle.
Yeah, the community sometimes has the power to pigeonhole you a little bit, right? Because like you said, when you start straying into the realms of other games, they bring you right back or they just drop off. And so that's kind of the sacrifices that you have to be willing to make if you want to venture out. But then also your social life gets sacrificed, right? Like you said, it's a never-ending hamster wheel of content. You constantly have to come up with new stuff. That's time consuming.
100%. I've had
social life doesn't exist,
this
right?
weekend is my birthday, and I had to cancel my planned birthday party with my friends because we have the Nintendo Switch event going on in the city. And there might be so much of my life is, I can't make plans this time because there might be something I need to make content on.
But the success of your channel is built upon, the amount of effort that you put in. But now that you have, this incredible platform that you've built for yourself, it then allows you to maybe go down the realm of employing people to kind of offset some of that time that's required to build your channel. And therefore you can almost claim a bit of that social life back, right? Have you gone down that route? Do you employ people that help you edit or, thumbnails, whatever it is within the YouTube realm? Do you, have a business partner, or do you have like a team?
Nope. I mean,
there you go. You're doing it to yourself, Austin.
I have an MCN that has done very little to actually help me out in my career, except for they sell a portion of my YouTube private ads for a higher CPM, click per mil, which basically means 1,000 people watch a video. Those ads directly sold by them, I make slightly more than Google would sell on its own. And then I have a management group, which is, an agent. They brought me some brand deals, and I have a very exciting brand deal coming up that I'm in the middle of right now that I can't tell you any more about, other than it's going to be very obvious in October. Like a large
Painfully
chapter
obvious.
of my year is going to be involving this, and I'm very excited for that.
That sounds awesome, man.
Yeah.
But when you go, like, when it came to management, let's just like start with those kind of pieces. When it came to management, did people reach out to you? Did you ask people, I need some management behind me to kind of get me brand deals because I can't do all of this by myself? Or did it just naturally occur?
So when Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild came out, I saw unnatural channel growth, which was what it was called. And MCNs, multi-channel networks, that's that acronym. They saw how many subscribers I was getting a week, and it was all organic, and I was not doing giveaways. I was not paying people for views and likes, and they saw it was just me grinding my ass off. And at that point, you become the belle of the ball. I got 3-4 offers a week to sign with us, this competitive rate, so on and so forth. I just picked one, and I mean, they haven't done me wrong. And I hate brand deals. I really do. I hate brand deals so
they
much.
kind of put you under their thumb, don't they?
and
it's kind of
especially with
scary.
my channel, like a game comes out, I come up, I discover something, I need to make the video, I need to format my thoughts, I need to record the video, I need to edit the video, I need to make the thumbnail, I need to do the metadata, I need to get it out, I need to share it to social media platforms. And that time frame is less than an hour. I mean, listen,
Really?
It used to be a much longer thing, but now for me to go from concept to execution on one video, I've narrowed it down, because I was able to analyze my channel when I was young. What were the things that was preventing me from having a more streamlined workflow? And it was, okay, well, the lights in my room, I need to walk around, I need to turn all those lights off. So instead I just do, hey Siri, turn off the studio.
I was going to say, are we about to lose you?
Hey Siri, studio recording. Sorry if I triggered anyone's phone with that.
No, I like it. It's great.
I went from using a DSLR and taking out the SD card and transferring over the files and then synchronizing my audio from there. Instead, I got a much better, more expensive camera that has some room for loss of quality. And then I'm just basically using that as a webcam, hence why it shows up as a webcam right here. And it all just records into one multi-channel file that once it's one file, I could tear the file apart with individual audio channels, throw them into my different equalizations between Logic Pro. I used to use Ableton, but now Logic is just better on the M1 chips. And then recompile it. And then I have 12 macros that I pretty much just do with this hand, while this hand just looks at everything. And that's my editing flow. Now, listen, you can do much more creative editing than I do. You can do your zoom ins and your sound effects and your cutaways. But if you're doing a video that takes 40 hours of preparation and, you have 6 weeks to post it, you can get the editor in there, and the editor can do amazing work, and you can get an animator to make this clip for you, and you can compile that all together for a beautiful masterpiece of a video. But in just the core concept of what I cover, it's not inherently the same. Shit, when I started, you know who my competition was? My competition was people who did desktop capture and wrote stuff on Notepad. And then just most of the screen would be Notepad, and they would write things on there, and that was my competition at the time. So me coming in there and doing, I mean, listen, you're old enough. You know that's what YouTube was back in 2009 and 10.
I'm old enough? Outright. Yeah, I am. I'm definitely old enough. I'm 33, man. I get it. But you know what? It's refreshing, and also it's telling to see the technical knowledge that you've got, especially like you said, from that musical background that you had, gave you that leg up when you needed it. Obviously now we have technology does most of the legwork for us. We don't need to know as much because we're just provided new shortcuts every year, whether it's a piece of hardware or a piece of software, but everything does more or less what we want it to do for us now. So having that knowledge back then was a huge bonus for you. But I guess speaking of back then, before we got on this chat, I had a bit of a deep dive in your channel. Most people would be embarrassed by that. But for you, my friend, surprisingly, your content from 8 years ago is still aligned with your style of content now. Obviously, it's more polished and you've included a few more things. But typically people have 180 their channels multiple times over the course of 8 years, but until they find a good rhythm and success. Did you have a formula in mind before you began your channel and that's just stuck? Or like you said, you don't do all the bells and whistles and the zoom in, zoom outs, cuts, sound effects, things like that. So you just kind of stuck through that. Was that always what you had in mind?
My two favorite things in life are learning things and sharing the information I've learned. Always has been. Hell, I mean, back when I was a DJ, I was the person who took people's MacBooks apart, removed their CD drive to install a second hard drive in there. And I would explain how to optimize file systems and how to do reformatting. And I was like the guy that every DJ in New Jersey and New York, I fixed their computers because I knew the very specific DJ things that they needed that Apple wasn't doing. But we all used MacBooks. If you know DJs in 2014, everyone had a MacBook. That's like the rule. Actually, the software we used was more stable on Mac. That's why. But that, and I have a half brother on my dad's side and a half brother, and I had a half sister. She died on my mom's side. And I was pretty much in charge of raising my younger brother and sister on my mom's side. And I was fucking 9, 10, and 11, and I didn't know how to raise a child. So I just spoke to them like they're an adult. And now my younger brother, he speaks very well. Hell, he speaks better than I do, just in like etiquette and like how you carry yourself. Plus, I have ADD and he has ADHD, so like we understand a lot of the difficulty that we have in social cues and everything else like that. So hang on, reel it back in. Reel okay. The question back in.
It's okay.
I got sidetracked a little bit. Went down the alleyway. Got to bring it back in.
Sounds like that's a testament to you, though. Like you're, taking on this role of helping raise your brother, right? And then he's now this eloquent dude.
I always spoke to them straightforward, and that's the only way I know how to speak to people. So when I made my videos, when I first started, I didn't make it to talk to a child. I don't want to talk down to anyone, because if you, a grown-ass adult, watch this video, you're like, oh, he's talking to children. Meanwhile, if I make it for a peer, an adult, and a younger child happens to watch it, they're not going to be dumbed down by the information. I may throw, more sophisticated words in there, and through context clues, they can learn what that word is and enhance their vocabulary. And that's always been my objective. And when I started covering Breath of the Wild, I got emails from single dads that was like, listen, a lot of people on YouTube, they're shitheads, but like me and my kid like watching your content together because you don't dumb it down, but you're also not trying to be unnecessarily vulgar.
You get a lot of that on YouTube, don't you?
Yeah, I like to think of it as I'm here to entertain the adult, but I'm going to have some hidden references in there that only they're going to get, like a Pixar movie, without being too edgy for the kid. Like, one of my core beliefs is cursing is like a good bikini. Less is more. And because of that,
fair enough.
Yeah. If you hear me curse, which I'm not going to drop F-bombs, but I'll say shit, and you hear that come out, you're like, oh, it's like the teacher cursed.
Yeah,
it's like that. That's how it hits, and that's the objective of it.
I think that also it resonates better for a younger audience anyway on YouTube, because let's face it, the audience for YouTube and your demographic as well, being with Nintendo, typically is younger, right? But they don't want to be spoken down to. Kids don't really respond to people talking down to them or talking, in forced kids speak. You're kind of just speaking to someone as you would speak to them at a bar. That's how you're trained as a presenter and a host as well. You talk to someone as if you're talking to them at a bar. Never talk down to someone you're interviewing on stage. even if they're a younger player, they're still, a competitor. And in your case, they're still a fan of you. Why would you need to change you for your YouTube audience? Ultimately, you don't want to have to change yourself for the purpose of your YouTube, because then that becomes something that's forced on your channel. So doing what comes naturally is always the best route, in my opinion, as well. But I mean, you've mentioned multiple times.
I've never heard
Sorry.
that little nugget before. The talk to them like they're at a bar.
Yeah.
Who taught
Talk
you
to
that
someone.
one?
Yeah. Oh, who did teach me that one? I feel like it's always been something that's knocked around. But when I actually did a training course in presenting, just to learn any fundamentals that someone could teach me. And I spoke to someone, and the two most important things they said were anchoring yourself. It's nothing worse than if you're seeing a host on stage talking to someone and they're doing this, they're pacing their feet back and forth because they're either nervous or they've got a lot of energy. And so they're padding their feet. But what you're doing is you're just wobbling and it becomes disorientating for somebody, A, to speak to, but B, for someone to see on screen. So you do something called anchoring, where you anchor the center of your body so that you just are in a fixed position. That was one thing. And then the other thing was speak to someone like you're speaking to them at a bar. Because if you start talking like a host, welcome to the Esports Awards podcast Origins, people go, what are you doing? Like, you're talking to an individual who's on their couch watching the show. You're not talking to an arena full of people. You're talking to this guy, the camera. So I think those are the two best pieces of advice I got about talking. And ultimately for you, I think that resonates through your content because, you're not catering your language or who you are as a person to suit a demographic or an audience member. You're just being you. And luckily, that's paid off, which is great because not only that, you've mentioned Zelda and Pokemon. I want to know why to you gravitated towards those games in particular, because I actually played a heck of a lot of GoldenEye and Smash Bros growing up, and I never gravitated towards the Zelda games. So I want to know for you why Zelda was the one, as well as Pokemon.
Before we hop in that, because that's going to be easy to cover. As an MC for weddings, I learned very early in my career, people don't listen to the MC. Yeah. They don't. And I'm not going to be the guy who like instructs you how to do the electric slide. And I don't want to be, Sebastian Ingrosso just saying, everybody put your hands up. No, just like as an MC for weddings, at least, it's don't MC to the room, talk to the room. Yeah. And once I started doing that, once I started talking to the room like it was a single person in front of me, everyone heard me better. Everyone listened better, and everyone resonated to what I was saying much more clearly, which I feel like sort of has like a somewhat of a mirroring that you were talking about with the hosting bit.
Yeah, I think when you're if you find it difficult as well, especially if there's a room full of people, I mean, the easiest thing to do is to just pick someone in the audience and talk to them. Obviously, it might make them feel a bit uncomfortable. For the rest of the audience, like, they don't really know what you're doing. So as long as as long as that's always in the back of your mind that you're talking to an individual rather than I'm addressing every single person. Obviously, there are time and places to do that. If you're doing a call to action, like if I'm in an arena doing something, I'll want the crowd to make some noise. You can go big. If you're doing that all the time, it's easy for people to switch off. Yeah.
It becomes monotonous and they switch off. Why Zelda and Pokemon?
Yes, sir.
So in the large amount of darkness of my childhood, there were a few bright rays of sunshine. One of them was my stepfather. His name was Dave. He's dead now too. Most of my family died in the last 10 years. A lot of it was during 2020. Real shitty time in my life. We could dive into that in a few hours. And his name was Dave. He was in a band. He loved playing video games. And we're talking like, I was in middle school at the time. So we're talking 2000 to 2001, where like peak PC was Diablo 1. And he was the guy who got me into video games. because before that, my dad got me a Sega Genesis and 2 games. And I played the shit out of those 2 games until they didn't run anymore. And my stepdad for Christmas got me an N64, Mortal Kombat Sub-Zero Mythologies, Super Smash Brothers, Super Mario 64. And like that was his Christmas too. Like, you know, he got the games for me, but he was also playing them. But one of them that we had the best time with was Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time, which was my first game in 3D gaming. And I would sit in front of the TV because the cable was only, 6 feet long. And he would go on a game FAQs and he would print out a guide that someone wrote. And as I was going through, because he didn't play, he played vicariously through me. He would like read over the guide and like just sort of give me hints and be like, oh, well, what about that? Well, what happens to that? Why don't you take a look in your inventory and little things like that? And I, at 10 years old, 11 years old, beat Ocarina of Time that way. And he was a big influential part in my life as far as gaming. So and he also got me my first Game Boy Pocket and a Game Boy Color and a copy of Pokemon Red, and shortly after a copy of Pokemon Blue. So those were my first games. Those were my first games that I enjoyed, resonated with, grew up with, and the franchises haven't died yet. So here I am.
I think as a kid as well.
I love Zelda and Pokemon down to my core. Like,
look at that. I think as a kid as well, that when you have
Charmander up there, question mark block.
When you have those experiences as a kid as well, like even just playing a video game and having someone there with you, experiencing it with you, even if they're not playing, it really does like instill core memories. I remember memories like that. I remember like one of my grandparents sitting with me and just watching me play and just commenting on things that were going on and just things like that. Those memories just burn into your, into your brain. And I think that it's such a phenomenal experience to have with other people, especially in your formidable years when you're like really young. Yeah. And yeah, Pokemon Stadium, actually, funnily enough, was one of those games for me. And I think it was such an epic game to play. And I think that's why, essentially, like you said, when those franchises don't die or they make a resurgence like Pokemon has, I mean, this resurgence that Pokemon's had on mobile and on the Switch, and the cards having this resurgence for collectors has just like, it's been so beneficial for you. I can imagine you were like a kid in the candy store. I mean, how many Pokemon cards did you have? Do you have a gem? Are you about to tell me that you have a Pikachu Illustrator card? Or am I dreaming this? What's going on? Go on, tell me your best Pokemon card. We're going to geek out now. Go on.
Okay.
Is it PSA graded?
So something that I'm working on for a video and something I started doing about 2 years ago is I have collected, it's super blurry, every single Charizard card ever made. I'll send you over a high resolution one. That way, if you want to show it on screen or something, that way it actually like appears.
What?
Every single Charizard and a variation of every single Charizard, including cards that were only available in Japan and didn't have an English variant. But this is my Charizard card that I pulled as a kid. I was on Route 4 in Elmwood Park. My stepdad, he just picked me up from school. It was Friday, so it was time for our weekly pack of Pokemon cards. I always pick the Charizard pack. We got into the car. I remember opening up. I remember how it felt. And I remember the excitement that he had that was instantly infectious on me. Of course, there's no video of this because it was a quiet, intimate moment in a car. And this is the card. This is my... And also, in 2006... I was living in a basement and there was a flood that year, and almost all of my possessions were ruined, including like my keyboards for audio production, my video game consoles, water damage on everything, my furniture, my bed. This card and the small binder that it was in was above the water level. So this is one of my few possessions from my childhood.
Is this a shadowless shiny Charizard?
No, it's a regular fucking American bullshit card.
I've been struggling this whole time, going like,
I have. Hang on.
I was like, is this like the rarest Charizard ever made? He's like, no, it's just the one I got when I was a kid. Like, it's just a cool. It's a memoir. It's a memory. There you go, right there. See, the most valuable thing isn't the thing that carries the most value in terms of money. It's the memory and the nostalgia. That's pretty cool. I love that it's just a normal shiny Charizard.
Shit, you want to go in order? Okay. Here's the
no.
promo.
Here we go. How long do we have?
Here's the promo Japanese Charizard card that came out with the movie. Oh, sorry, no. This is the first card ever made. Here is my first edition shadowless one. It's only a grade 2, but I like to collect the low grade ones because this is the retirement home. This is their Florida. I'm not selling these cards. These are mine. Here's a non-first edition borderless.
What does a PSA 10 shadowless Charizard go for nowadays? It's a few
I was just at a card show
right?
and one was being sold for I think $256,000.
Oh,
house.
Yes,
house money.
Yeah, house money. Literally, card convert to house. Damn.
Yeah,
that's
and then it
so
just goes,
cool, man.
I have them all in chronological order.
I mean, let's stay on the topic of Pokemon, man, because you are going to be attending Pokemon Worlds in August in Anaheim. What are you doing there? Are you just attending? Are you bringing the Charizards with you?
So there's different levels of notoriety within the Pokemon Company International, and specifically the United States, North America, Latin America, South America, Australia, New Zealand division, which is just one group ran by one dude with one assistant. His name is Stefan. And the last time I attended Worlds was in Yokohama, Japan for 2023, which was an amazing trip. I didn't get to go to Honolulu, but now that it's in Anaheim and it's a continental flight, wow, sign me up. There's over 150 creators that are of the class of notable trainers. That's the internal code, the internal name that they use. It means nothing publicly, which it has people that are very small creators. And then there's the largest one, which is me. And then you have partners, people who were handpicked by Pokemon for one reason or another to receive early products and have a free flight and hotel and do exclusive experiences. I'm not of that group. I don't know why I'm not of that group, but I'm not. But they get to go on like cool private experiences and small like little treats and stuff. And I pretty much just get a free pass to go down to the floor to go watch the matches.
2025, though, we know that you're going to be in Anaheim. We know that you're going to be at Pokemon Worlds. What else can we expect from Austin John Plays in 2025? Any other franchises that are piquing your interest or anything new we can be expecting from you aside from this very cool partnership that you're going to be doing soon?
Well, the Nintendo Switch 2 has a lot in store for us this year. We're actually recording this before the announcement, so I'm not exactly too sure what's coming up, but I'm very excited for it because I haven't really had a lot to work with for the last year and a half, and I'm very excited to get back to work.
You're saying that you don't know. Do you have any idea? Do you have any guesses? And we can see if you're right by the time this comes out. Do you have any like inklings into what you think is going to come out?
We have Pokemon Legends ZA. That's obviously going to be for the Switch 1 because Creatures Incorporated and Game Freak don't like embracing new hardware as much as they need to, which is the reason so many of the environments seem so small. But I feel as though it's going to run on Switch 2 better, considering Scarlet and Violet did run on a day one release day switch if you overclocked it. But it didn't run on the main power profiles on regular switches, which is just dumb. We're going to be having a Mario Kart because we're still on Mario Kart 8 from the Wii U.
I know. Isn't that crazy how old that is now?
Yeah. Isn't it now like the 4th best-selling game of all time?
Isn't it also still full price and it's never been discounted?
Yep.
That is
it is
wild.
bundled in with some switches around holiday.
Yeah, that is true. That's
Best-selling
wild.
video games.
What else? Go on,
all
2025. Time. What else can we expect from you, my friend?
There is the Pokemon Lego collaboration. I built a fun little Pikachu tail out of Lego, and that is going to be happening the following year. But we may get some news about that. I'm excited for it. We have I'm anticipating another 3D Mario game, and we don't know the direction. For the first time in almost more than a decade, we don't know the direction that Zelda is going to go. Actually, probably even longer than that, because the follow-up from Wind Waker was Twilight Princess, which we saw tech demos of before it was released. And then, we didn't know about Skyward Sword. But then from Skyward Sword, we were told about Zelda U, which became Breath of the Wild, then the DLC, then Tears of the Kingdom. We don't know what's in store for the next 3D Zelda and when it's going to be happening. We assume that they have a lot of time to work on it since Tears of the Kingdom was a lot of reused assets from Breath of the Wild. The question is, how can you top it? You know what I mean?
I do know what you mean. That hit the ground running, to say the least, those games. And so it's going to be interesting to see.
I looked it up, and Mario Kart 8 is the 5th best-selling game of all time. Right behind Ark Survival Evolved, surprisingly. Wii Sports, GTA 5, and Minecraft.
Yeah, I was going to say Minecraft is still holding #1 spot, I believe.
Yeah. Where's Tetris on this list?
It's not sold, is it, Tetris? Is it actually a sellable game? I think you get it for free, yeah. And you get it for free, I think, in a lot of things. Dude, honestly, like, you're probably one of the most informed people that I've ever met on, either just on a general scope when it comes to gaming, like, and music. Like, your technical knowledge is amazing. So there's no surprise to me that your YouTube has gone on leaps and bounds, and it's been an absolute pleasure to talk to you. Where can people find you? I believe it's at AustinJohnPlays. Is that across the board?
Across the board. I secured it all day I made the channel name. Because that's the rule. That's the rule of the business, right? You have to have the same name on every platform. Otherwise, change your goddamn name.
It is.
Otherwise, change your gosh darn name.
AustinJohnPlays. It's been an absolute pleasure to talk to you, man. You know what? Like I've said, professional through and through. You're a breath of fresh air when it comes to knowledge about Nintendo and all the things that you're really into. But obviously, you're quite a methodical guy, and you don't speak unless you know what you're talking about as well. And that's something that I think I clocked onto when I first met you at the end of last year. And it's only been a pleasure to get to know you anymore. Everyone watching and listening, make sure that you follow at AustinJohnPlays across all socials. And of course, follow us as well at Esports Awards across all socials. And we'll be seeing you next week for our next episode of Origins. See you then.